Part 50. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 494. Concentrating his mind, Garen put away the totem's light wave, and took out a crystal ball containing the origin of the evil god from his waist bag. The three origins inside rotate with each other, forming a beautiful circle. The origin of the god of light, the origin of the god of time, and the origin of the god of war. The three halos of white, black, and red are constantly rotating and endless. The will of the evil god king has been completely eliminated, and all of them have been actively sucked out by the evil god king as coordinates. Now these three groups of evil gods have become powerful treasures that can be absorbed. It's just that Galleon doesn't know how to absorb it to get the original effect. If different resources are absorbed in different ways, the tonic may even turn into poison. Just like taking an external ointment internally, you may not get the benefits, but it may be dangerous. The only one who knows how to really use it is the unknown commander of the Black Sky Society in history. Garen recalled everything in the land of the ancestral gods and quickly set his target on the masked female commander of the Black Sky Society. Go to the evil god cult first, and if that doesn't work, go to the female leader of the Black Sky Society. He made an arrangement in his mind. The figure instantly turned into a column of black smoke, which silently shot towards the blood-colored wooden fortress of the evil god cult. Boom! The gate of the wooden fortress suddenly shattered into pieces and flew towards the inside, severely knocking down several of the guarding believers. Enemy attack! Loud roars came from inside the fort. Garen stood in front of the gate of the wooden fortress, watching the evil cultists in red attire swarming out of the wooden fortress, each holding a red light spear and rushing towards him. Several totem masters quickly carved spells with their hands behind them, and layers of white light slowly lit up around them. There were also totem beasts surrounding him from all directions. A sly smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He didn't use any moves at all, and the Black Water True skill was only slightly activated. Garen stepped forward. A black poisonous mist suddenly dispersed and spread in all directions. A large number of screams suddenly sounded one after another, mixed with the wails of a large number of totem beasts. With Garen as the center, all the surrounding evil god believers fell to their knees, rolling and screaming. Their flesh and blood melted quickly, like candles, and soon only the skeleton remained. After a while, there were only white skeletons left in the entire fortress. The highest-ranking totem master of the evil god cult is only type 3, and has not even been transformed into a spiritual light. It's just a matter of holding on in the poisonous mist for a little longer. Looking at the entire bloody fortress from a distance, a black cloud and poisonous mist tightly enveloped it, with a faint dragon shape swimming within it. Isn't there anyone with weight? Where is the evil god? Garen frowned and glanced around. In just 2 minutes, the entire fortress completely turned into a dead city. The hundreds of people inside all became nutrients for the Black Water True skill and were merged into the poisonous mist. This place is completely far away from the land of the ancestral gods. Perhaps the evil gods have returned to their respective bases, he frowned and guessed, but as long as we kill a few more evil god cult strongholds, we should encounter evil gods appearing. Half a month later. Dongzhou Ennet. Somewhere along the long coastline, waves of blue and white waves washed up on the beach, and then quickly receded, leaving behind dark water traces that quickly disappeared. Two slender figures were walking slowly side by side on the beach. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the two of them, coating them with a layer of light golden red, while also drawing out two long and narrow shadows. Have you really decided? One of the figures was a young man. He was wearing a black robe with dark gold lace, his chest was open, and his naked upper body was wrapped with circles of white bandages, with faint traces of blood leaking from them. How many years have we been working hard and enduring for this goal? Just when we are about to succeed, are you going to quit seclusion? The other person was a woman. She stretched out her hand to straighten her hair that was blown by the sea breeze. Like the man, she wore a dark gold lace robe, a white tie t-shirt underneath, and a black ring hanging from her chest. The woman turned sideways and looked at the endless sea and sky scenery, her fair and not very beautiful face showing a trace of confusion. You don't understand. This is not the life I want. The moon-white crescent moon earrings hanging on her earlobes swayed slightly, adding a bit of beauty. Then what kind of life do you want? The man asked calmly. When you and I entered the black sky together, we agreed to advance and retreat together. This time, as soon as I came out of seclusion, I learned that you wanted to retire, or that someone in Zizhu dared to bully you. In your eyes, will I always be the little girl who was bullied? The woman couldn't help but smile. She kicked pebbles on the beach and lowered her head. I'm just tired, my heart is tired. The woman's voice dropped. This kind of life of always chasing something is so tiring. You promised me. Don't force me. Okay, the woman interrupted the man. Haven't you noticed that we are becoming less and less like ourselves? The man fell silent for a moment. How many years have we not walked on the beach like this? You and I command a continent. No matter how high we stand and how strong we are, what's the use? People will eventually get tired. So you went to Shanya this time just to get the origin of the god of love? Then merge and retreat? Have you ever considered my feelings? The man became a little excited. I work hard to become stronger and take domination of a continent as my only goal. What is my purpose? He paused. At first you said that when I entered the spiritual light, you would consider marrying me. Then I entered the spiritual light. Then you said that for the sake of my brother, you can't be so selfish. As long as I reach the fourth type, I can help my brother. We got married. Then I entered type 4. The woman lowered her head without any retort. Finally, you said that for the sake of my brother, you must go to Zizhu and take charge of the Zizhu military headquarters. The man took a deep breath. In order to be worthy of you, I also worked hard to cultivate, at any cost, and now I have finally become a Zizhu army chief of the department. And now you tell me that you are going to retire. I'm sorry for you. The woman lowered her head. He, the man chuckled. How many years have passed? Do you think this is what I have been waiting for? He suddenly stopped smiling, staring deeply at the woman in front of him. Ash, can you let me hug you for real once? The woman did not answer, but moved slightly closer to the man. The man suddenly hugged the woman tightly in his arms, as if he was holding the most precious treasure in the world. A trace of greed and desire emerged from his face without concealment, from an angle that the woman could not see. Let me hold you just a little longer, okay, he begged. Perhaps because of guilt, the woman's body stiffened for a moment, but finally softened and allowed the man to hug her tightly. But she didn't see that the man was holding her right hand, and the back of his hand was dimly lit with countless dense black runes. Countless black runes flowed out from the back of his right hand like ants, and silently climbed up the woman's back. Ash. You will always be mine, forever. The man murmured quietly. The woman suddenly realized something was wrong. Shinaun, let me go, she struggled, but to no avail. Her whole body was soft and she couldn't exert any strength. The skin on her back felt vaguely hot. Shinaun. What are you doing? It's so pitiful. Suddenly a pitiful male voice came from not far away from the two of them. Who? Shen Yun suddenly raised his head. With a crash, a black chain suddenly shot out from the feet of the person who made the sound, but it was in vain. The chains quickly faded and disappeared, turning into shadows. Not far away from the two of them, stood a slender and well-proportioned blond man. His long, splendid fringe-like hair was slightly raised in the wind. His handsome face looked at the two people embracing each other with a hint of sarcasm and ridicule. I didn't expect that I would see such a disgusting scene as soon as I arrived. Tisk tisk. The two military commanders of the Black Sky Society actually have such secrets. Kurosawa Miyakaran, Shen Yun gently let go of AI-11, put one hand around her slim waist, and leaned her against her side. What are you doing here? If you want to take revenge after the breakthrough, I will accompany you at any time. A trace of artificial surprise flashed across Garen's face. I always thought you only liked men, but I didn't expect that you would also like women. Court death. Shen Yun's face suddenly twisted. Countless black chains pierced out of the ground, wrapped around Galen, and in the blink of an eye, they were wrapped into a ball of iron. But the strange thing is that all the chains were tied up empty. Garen did not know when he appeared in another position, and with a light palm, he imprinted on the surface of the chain ball. Silently, the chain ball melted quickly, turning into black slime and dripping on the beach. Having stayed in Kuwaitan as a princess for so long, Shenayun, have you forgotten His Majesty Avik's love for you day and night? Tisk, tisk, it's so heartless, Garen said with a sad look on his face. The expression on Shen Yun's face became more and more distorted, and the violent power seemed like a volcano about to erupt, possibly erupting at any time. But it is a pity that even he is unable to deal with the new peak Type 5 in front of him while protecting one person. Moreover, the orb of distortion is no longer on his body at this time. In order to control AI-11, he has used up most of his own totem light. Now is the time when he is the weakest in his history. Shenayun's eyes began to flicker, and black chains were faintly arranged in the surrounding air to arrange teleportation spells. The chains seemed to be scattered randomly, but in fact they concealed orderly movements. Garen sneered and snapped his fingers. Bang! A circle of black mist spread out in a circle. He directly scattered the black chains and melted them into black liquid, dripping to the ground. Within a few hundred meters around the three people, all living things were dissolved by the poisonous mist, and even the sea water was faintly turning black. Want to run away? I specifically chose this moment, how could I let you escape easily? Garen chuckled. You chose this position specifically to control your lover, and you also arranged your subordinates in advance. With such a good opportunity, do you think I will let it go so easily? Well, tell me about the method of integrating the origin of the evil god. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 495. The Fusion Method of the Evil God's Origin. Shen Yun felt relieved, as long as the other party still wanted something, it would be easy to handle. AI-11's expression was complicated at this time. She was held by Shenayun with one hand. Even if a large number of black runes slowly spread on her back, she seemed not to notice it at all, but there was a trace of sadness in her eyes. Looking at Garen not far away, she opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Even the right to speak was controlled by Shen Yun. Lowering her head, AI-11 stopped making any movement. She no longer seemed worried about Shen Yun's small movements. She was just gently held by him and her eyes were slightly closed. You also want to merge with the origin of the evil god. Shenayun didn't see AI-11's expression at this time, but looked at the man opposite him intently. The master of Blackpool Palace, Garen Terry Jones, broke through not long ago and entered the lower level of Type 5. His actual combat power was comparable to the peak of Type 5. After successively massacring several evil god cult strongholds and defeating several waves of evil god alliances, he finally disappeared suddenly. I didn't expect to appear here. To hand over or not to hand over, it's your choice. Black poisonous mist continued to spread under Garen's feet, surrounding hundreds of meters, and also tightly wrapped Shenayun and the two. In the black mist, black chains appeared in the void around the two people from time to time. Resist the erosion of poisonous fog. Shenayun's eyes flickered, and the situation between the enemy and ourselves was not good at this time. I can give you the method, but who can guarantee that you will not do it again after I give it to you? It depends on your luck, Garen chuckled. He had discovered AI-11 very early, but the opponent had been in the master stronghold of the Black Sky Society, so there was no chance. He could only wait behind him. Chance. Unexpectedly, AI-11 went out alone this time. When she found out that the person she met was Shen Yun, Garen was about to retreat quietly, but she never expected that Shen Yun would actually take action. Seizing the most critical opportunity, Garen appeared directly when the two commanders were at their weakest. The two commanders must have crystal delayers, but for masters at their level, the totems controlled by those things can only delay time at best. What really determines victory or defeat is your own strength. Yes, I can hand over the source fusion method to you. However, this method takes a long time to dictate. Shen Yun hesitated for a moment before speaking decisively. It doesn't matter, we still have plenty of time, Garen grinned, showing his white teeth. Strangely, his teeth at this time were slightly sharp, as if they were saw-toothed, not like human beings. Shenayun, the biological sister who assassinated the President Gaiman and the Commander-in-Chief of the Zizhu military department, will have a hard time in the future. Do you want to consider leaving the Black Sky Society and joining me, Kurosawa Palace? You don't have to worry about this. AI-11 suddenly spoke at this moment, with a flash of white light all over his body, and he suddenly broke free from Shenayun's arms and stood firmly on the other side. It was obvious that Shen Yun gave up controlling her and allowed her to escape safely. Brother Shenayun didn't do anything excessive to me, it's just that you were dazzled. Garen's expression remained unchanged. It was certain that AI-11 was the commander in history who relied on the origin of the evil god to break through. However, at this time, she obviously had not yet broken through, so there was nothing to be afraid of. However, Shen Yun now had one less burden, so she could let go and fight. The outcome is somewhat unpredictable. Fortunately, the spell just now seemed to consume a lot of Shenayun. Sure enough, a gloomy look flashed across Shen Yun's face, but he still spoke calmly and began to describe the methods and conditions for absorbing the evil god's origin. The origin of the evil god is evil and manic. Most people should not try to absorb it. Even if they get close, they may be confused by the power of the origin, and their minds will be immersed in it forever, unable to extricate themselves. It must be a high-level existence, coupled with an extremely strong mind and will, to be completely free from the evil spirit. Influenced absorption. After careful research by Mahakala, our Black Sky Society, we have come up with the easiest absorption method. Although it also involves certain risks, it also greatly reduces the risk. This original absorption method requires two conditions. He paused and said, the first is to eliminate the will of the evil god king, which I say you have already accomplished. Needless to say, the second condition is to use the ancient Yin Duomi martial arts that are quite suitable to reconcile it. Gaian Duomi Wu harmony, Garen raised his eyebrows slightly. Yes, the evil god's original nature is extremely violent and tempting. There is no way to reconcile it. No matter how powerful you are, you can only destroy it instead of absorbing it for your own use, Shenayun said with an indifferent expression. Otherwise, why do you think our Black Sky Society only has AI? I hope one person can absorb it. Nay, Saigula and the others. It may have some benefits in the short term, but in the future it will become an obstacle to their progress, and the longer it is delayed, the stronger this obstacle will be, and even cause them to degenerate. Shen Yun looked sarcastic. He is a good man. Even if he was ridiculed by Garen before, he could still calm down and explain it carefully. So what kind of origin goes with what kind of secret weapon? Garen asked. The secret weapon that can reconcile the origin has always been in the hands of the evil god king. It just happened that AI-11's own secret weapon and the origin of the god of love were not too exclusive, so it was possible to absorb it. I heard that you got several kinds from the evil god cult. Different origins, in order to eliminate the will of the evil god king, and even almost have a head-on battle with him. Unfortunately, only the secret martial arts of the evil god king is the only way to reconcile the origins of all the evil gods. If you want to absorb all the origins, then the only way is to obtain the secret weapon of the evil god king himself. Shen Yun sneered. Don't think this is a trick. In fact, many people know this method, and some people from the hermit school also know it, but no one can do it. Garen frowned. If all this is true, then this is a conspiracy. It seems that Shenayun has calculated correctly that he has to fight against the evil god king. Suddenly, he smiled slightly. Stretch out your right hand with your index finger raised. Hiss. A snake-shaped black mist emerged from the fingertips, twisting and rolling. It turned out to be like a living creature, hissing like a snake. I know the method, but now that I'm here, I have to collect some interest from the last battle at Swafeng. Before he finished speaking, Garen suddenly popped out the black snake in his hand. The black snake shot out and grew bigger and bigger in mid-air. In an instant, it expanded from the thickness of a finger to a terrifying black snake several meters in diameter. Opening its huge mouth, it pounced and bit Shen Yun. Countless black smoke and poisonous mist rolled around, and the black snake let out a silent roar and rushed towards the divine cloud. The extremely poisonous corrosive mist filled the surroundings, and all the sand on the beach was corroded into pools of black water. The nearby sea water also turned black and gave off a fishy smell. Lock, Shen Yun's eyes opened, his hands suddenly closed, and countless black chains exploded from the ground around him, forming a black column, protecting it tightly in the center. Call. On the entire beach, a black chain rose into the sky like an air column fountain, extremely conspicuous. The front of the chain cylinder collided with the black snake, and a black light burst out silently between the two. Ash on the side opened his eyes wide. This was a battle at the peak of Type 5. It is far from common totem masters who have the opportunity to see it often. The black light bloomed, like a bomb exploding, and it only lasted for a moment. On the tawny beach, in the middle of the explosion, the halo had not completely dissipated, and only a muffled bang was heard. The two phantoms collided fiercely, and they were Jia Long and Shen Yun. The two of them were close to each other, arms folded together. Black chains and black poisonous mist were intertwined around him, and black molten liquid was constantly dripping. Garen raised his palms to form a knife, clasped his hands together from top to bottom, and struck Shenayun's arm from above. His whole body was suspended in the air, and his eyes completely turned into two long and narrow dark eyes. Shen Yun raised his arms to resist the violent force above, and chains appeared and disappeared around him. Boom! A huge circular pit suddenly exploded at the foot of Shenayun, and a huge pit with a diameter of more than 10 meters wide instantly appeared on the beach. Will, a black hole suddenly appeared in Shen Yun's chest, and a black light shot out of the hole, turning into a complex, slowly rotating wheel in front of him. The black wheel is densely covered with flowing chains and spell runes. Waves of crisp wind chimes slowly sounded from the void, as if floating from a very far away place. A similarly enlarged black wheel appeared silently in the air around Garen. A huge force of imprisonment instantly locked it, and everything in the wheel, including the beach, sea water, and air, was firmly fixed by the tyrannical force of locking. However, Shen Yun had no intention of relaxing at all, and quickly took a few steps back. The black wheel on his chest shattered, and a dark arm suddenly stretched out from the black hole. The nails on the 5 fingers of the arm were sharp, and a ferocious human face appeared in the palm of the hand. As soon as it appeared, it rushed towards Garen. With each stretch and grab, there was a tearing sound in the void, and 5 black cracks appeared. Even the space was torn apart. In the black wheel, Garen's eyes had completely lost their pupils, leaving only darkness. The vermilion mark between his eyebrows had long since completely disappeared, turning into a long and narrow black crack. Lock the will of destruction, he shook his whole body suddenly, and a crisp cracking sound suddenly sounded in the space, like broken porcelain and glass exploding. Black water. Rushing. Garen stretched out his right hand, and several black dragons wrapped around his arm, facing the dark demonic arm head-on. There was a crisp sound. The dark magic arm and Garen's right arm collided fiercely, and almost at the same time, both collapsed at the same time. The demonic arm shattered into countless pieces of flesh, then turned into black light spots and disappeared, and a painful roar came from the underworld. Garen's right arm shattered instantly, turning into countless pieces of flesh and blood that splashed and melted, directly blending into the surrounding poisonous mist. Intense pain came from his right arm. Garen didn't pay attention at all. The dragon's shadow flashed across his face. With the dragon roar, his right leg rose into the air. Countless black smoke condensed and enlarged, and the whip leg instantly enlarged and lengthened by 10 seconds. Duomi, a giant black air column suddenly pulled out. Bang! The two black shadows separated at the same time and flew backwards to both sides. The blood from the bandage on Shen Yun's waist couldn't stop flowing out, but it stopped quickly. He revealed his figure, half kneeling on the ground, his expression unchanged, and he took a deep breath before standing up. On the opposite sea, Garen's figure has been completely reduced to a ball of minced meat. Under the blow just now, he and Shinaun competed with each other in terms of physical strength. Even with a 10-point constitution, his whole body was shattered by the force of the counter-shock. The black poisonous mist instantly wrapped it into a mist ball. In the blink of an eye, the mist dispersed, and Garen's strong body reappeared. His upper body was naked, and his lower body was shrouded in poisonous mist. He was floating on the sea, as if he had never been injured. 9 lives talent, Shen Yun raised his eyebrows slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, a black shadow slowly appeared over his right shoulder. It was only the size of a palm, but the clear and ethereal sound of wind chimes was faintly heard in the air again. Bang! Garen's newly condensed body actually exploded with a bang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 496. Garen's face, which was originally smiling, also changed. The darkness in his eyes faded like a tide, and the black crack between his eyebrows disappeared instantly, revealing a look of uncertainty. Except for his neck, the entire lower part of his body exploded continuously, blowing the entire repaired body to pieces in just an instant. The black mist lingered and shrouded, and with a sweep, his body recovered again, but the severe pain just now made Garen feel afraid. He controlled the black mist to retreat dozens of meters, looking at the sacred clouds on the shore from a distance. He is no longer the common-sense rookie he was when he fought with Ephesus. The large amount of knowledge he had memorized in the palace secret vault gave him a clear understanding of some information about Shen Yun. Shen Yun practices the most bizarre secret martial art of locking the will of destruction. This secret martial art is rumored to have 9 levels. Shen Yun reached the highest level decades ago. But from the records, I have never heard of the ability to have the traceless move just now. Shinaun's expression did not change. The black wheel on his right shoulder vibrated again, making a crisp ringing sound. Bang! Galen's newly recovered body actually exploded again. Retreat, Garen didn't hesitate at all. The black mist suddenly turned into a black light and flew away. In just a blink of an eye, it disappeared far away on the sea. The surrounding poisonous fog also quickly disappeared completely. Everyone thought that the will of destruction only had 9 levels. Unfortunately, I worked hard and finally pushed it to the unprecedented 10th level. Shen Yun looked indifferent and stood looking at the sea in the direction of Galleon's departure. Suddenly, he grabbed the beach ground with his left hand. There was a flash of black light, mixed with a muffled groan, and a cloud of poisonous mist suddenly exploded on the beach. The black light flew out of the poisonous mist, and left like an arrow in the direction Garen left. As expected of Shinaun, Garen's voice came faintly from the black light. AI-11 on the side finally breathed a sigh of relief and walked over to stand next to Shen Yun. Is he really gone? Shen nodded. Bang 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 bang. In the blink of an eye, countless blood holes burst out on his body, a large amount of black blood spurted out, and the chains of totem light that originally surrounded him were shattered. Let's go, Shen Yun struggled to spit out one word and passed out. AI-11 was shocked, and quickly waved one hand, and a stream of white satin shot out from his sleeve, wrapping the two people around, and then letting go, the two people disappeared in the satin. The white silk satin flew towards the shore and inland. In just a blink of an eye, it actually spanned hundreds of meters and quickly disappeared on the horizon. The moment the two left, a black mist suddenly shot up from the sea. In the mist, Garen's figure appeared. His eyes scanned the surroundings, and when he sniffed, a stern look suddenly flashed in his eyes. Even I was fooled. Good, good. With a twist of his body, Garen's entire body once again turned into black mist and disappeared. In Shanya. Woo! A desolate and distant horn echoed from above the vast sea of trees. On an unusually tall white mountain cliff, on the edge of the cliff, a big man with muscles like iron was holding a black horn more than 2 meters long, looking up to the sky and blowing it vigorously. Boom! On the ground in the distance, a pillar of blood-red air suddenly shot up, soaring straight into the sky, turning most of the blue sky red. Countless clouds swirled around the pillar of blood. Welcome the King of God. The big man dropped his horn and prostrated himself on the ground, prostrate in worship. Welcome the God King. Deafening roars came from everywhere under the sea of trees. In the sea of green trees, large numbers of blood evil god cultists appeared, raising their hands in the air and kneeling in worship in the direction of the blood pillar. There were several soft shishi sounds. Several figures of evil gods suddenly appeared in the sky. Astonishingly, they were the water god, the god of light, and the god of thunder. The three of them pressed their chests with one hand and saluted in the direction of the blood pillar. Congratulations to the King of Gods for his recovery from his injuries. The three of them spoke in unison, and their voices clearly passed through the distance and spread far away without any loss. Even if I recover from my injuries, I still need to collect more sparkling water and master all the shining pools outside. A cold and masculine voice came from afar. This water source will be of great help to my secret martial arts skills. Yes, the three evil gods responded respectfully. Their original core was in the hands of the evil god king and they were unable to resist at all. I have clearly felt that the son of destruction who will pose a threat to me in my destiny is Hani Thunderbolt. The evil god king said lightly, go, you two, bring his head. He hangs at the top of Stit Cathedral in this volume. The three middle evil gods did not hesitate at all and resigned one after another and left in different ways. In the large open area between Kuwaitan Absolute Shelter and Enite. In the rolling mountains covered with snow, between the layers of snow peaks, there is a hidden peak at the top, in the shade. A piece of gray-black stone ruin stands quietly on the top of a slightly shorter snow peak. Most of the ruins are gray and black stone buildings, many of which are dilapidated. The most eye-catching one is a gray and black cathedral. The sharp top of the church pierces the sky. The entire church is in the shape of a mountain, but there are far more than 3 spires. Instead, there are more than 10 spires densely packed like stacked spears. Different heights. The church has only one arch-shaped cavity, which is more than 20 meters high. It is as huge as a football field. It is paved with large flat black stone tiles, which is smooth and unusually clean and tidy. The arch cavity is a hall, surrounded by white stone pillars more than 20 meters high. Each one is like a giant's finger, hard and straight, supporting the top of the entire church. The mountain wind was cold and the whistling sound was endless. At this time, there were blue torches stuck on every pillar. The blue firelight directly illuminated the hall into a blue and white, clear and bright. In the hall, there were many people standing or sitting at this time. Some of these people were wearing black robes, white robes, red robes, black and white robes, and all kinds of robe colors. Most of them are led by elders, who lead young people to occupy a separate place. There are actually more than a dozen of these people with different robe colors. Among them, there are 4 groups with the most people: black, white, green, and red. These 4 groups, with the largest number of people, formed a ring shape and surrounded the center of the hall. There was a large open space in the middle of the hall. No one stood on it, and they didn't know why. The cold wind was howling, but there was not much sound in the hall. Hundreds of people gathered together, but everyone looked solemn, as if waiting for an opportunity. The time is almost up. Among the men in black robes, a man covered in robes slowly stood up and whispered. Although his voice was low and weak, everyone could hear him clearly. It should be around this time. Among the crowd in red robes, a bearded old man with white hair said with narrowed eyes. As per the old rules, you have to do it this time. The man in black robe chuckled. The bearded old man nodded and stood directly in the open space in the middle without being polite. Now please bring out totems from each school of thought, he shouted loudly. As soon as he finished speaking, the other 3 colors of the crowd, black, white and green, took a step forward at the same time. Everyone said nothing, and there was a faint totem light all over their bodies. Black, white, and green, 3 different light colors change from weak to strong to bright and finally become more dazzling. All the totem lights of the 3 groups of people gathered together and turned into 3 balls of light, suspended above the heads of the 3 groups of people. Among the 3 totem light balls, the black one is a jumping black flame. The white one is an intricate and gorgeous white flower. Green is a big cyan bird with 3 pairs of eyes. 3 totem light balls flew towards the middle of the hall at the same time. The bearded old man in red robe in the center slowly stretched out his skinny arms and raised them high. Laugh! A ball of dazzling red light suddenly bloomed from the tip of his finger. In the red light, a beautiful red lotus flower slowly bloomed. Black, white, green, and red, 4 halos of light mixed together instantly. As if collapsing and annihilating, all the brilliance shrank suddenly. The 4 totem lights were directly compressed into a point, only the size of a soybean, suspended in the middle of the hall. The old man in red robe hurriedly retreated to his camp and left the center position. Boom! In an instant, the entire hall exploded into a red halo, all 4 light groups turned into red, and all totem images completely dissipated. The ground of the entire building shook with buzzing vibrations, and the entire snow peak felt like an earthquake. The large white snow showed faint signs of forming an avalanche, and rolled down rapidly and crazily with the vibrations. But it was strange in the hall. No one escaped. Everyone was staring at the red halo spreading in the middle with blazing eyes. No matter how the outside world vibrates, this halo is calm and steady, and its interior is slowly rotating clockwise like a whirlpool. The 14th school battle begins now, the old man in red robe quickly announced loudly. This time the organizer is Red Lotus Club. The old man in red robe waved one hand, and a light red light curtain suddenly appeared above the heads of everyone in the hall, on which the last ranking of the school was displayed in more than 10 different languages. First place, Black Sky Society. Second place, Red Lotus Club. Third place, Daiwa Club. Fourth place, Resonance Tower. Old rule: only the top 4 are eligible to be on the Tunguska list and are in charge of the key keys to unlock the Tunguska ruins, the old man said loudly, and his voice resounded throughout the hall, and everyone could hear it clearly. Representatives from the Black Sky faction, please. The old man from the Red Lotus Club cast his gaze on the man in black robe. Who are the 3 people you want to send to this debate? 3 people, the leader of the black-robed man suddenly chuckled. Ga. A pitch-black crow flew in from outside the hall, flapped its wings, and landed on the right shoulder of the man in black robe. Go. Gorius. The man in black robe pointed, and the black crow suddenly swooped down, its body getting bigger and more ferocious. In just a blink of an eye, it transformed and melted, condensing into a hooded figure in black robes. Goliath! There were endless exclamations, the expressions of the old man in the Red Lotus Club changed slightly, and the faces of the people in the Baipeo Daiwa Club also became a little solemn. "You are not Mahakala," the green-robed leader of the Resonance Tower shouted loudly. A smile appeared on the pale lips of the man in black robes, and he reached out to lift the hood on his head. The face of a pale, bald man suddenly appeared in front of everyone. His skin color is not ordinary pale, but a dark silvery gray without any blood color, and even his skin seems to be smooth and hard stone. There are no eyebrows, no beard, not even a trace of hair. There is no hair on the entire head. There were slight wrinkles on his forehead, and his eyes were bright and deep, like the clearest blue lake water and gems. The black robe was loosened and draped around his body, revealing the heavy and complicated black armor underneath. The dispute between schools of thought that has been going on for thousands of years should end today. It seems you have really made a breakthrough, Goi men. Among the people in white robes, two people in white robes slowly stood up and lifted their hoods, revealing a man and a woman. The man is handsome and the woman is beautiful, both of them have silver flower forehead ornaments inlaid between their brows. "Sisley, Odun, I'm so glad you're still alive." Gaiman showed a sincere smile. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 497. Black stone pillars stand on the ground one by one. In the middle of the gray earth, between the stone pillars, a dark stone city stood quietly. The city wall was more than 100 meters high. It was filled with archers in different clothes. They held bows and arrows and continued to move down. "Shoot arrows quickly." There was chaos under the city wall. Men in tattered gray cloths, carrying spears, axes and other weapons, densely surrounded the main entrance of the city wall. Looking from above, the Dark Siege team numbered over 1,000 people, with only a few dozen people at the city gate struggling to support them. Between the crowds of people, blue and red halos exploded from time to time. With each explosion, more than 10 people were thrown away, clearing the area. But these miscellaneous troops did not flinch. Each of their eyes were blood red, and they seemed to have completely lost their minds and rushed towards the city wall crazily. Wisps of faint music could be heard faintly from a distance. The siege team did not shout, but all charged in silence, giving people a strange and inexplicable feeling. "We must not let them get the secret treasure. Otherwise, no one in the world can stop them," a black-bearded man on the city wall said in a low voice. There were several young boys and girls standing beside him, but none of them looked young and immature. Their faces were resolute, and they looked at the killing field below without any fear at all. "There's news from the king of Osha," a young boy whispered. "The number of monsters in the Bridge of Abstinence has increased again. We need to be careful." From the beginning of the chaos in their Osha country, the only way in and out of the bridge was occupied by monsters, making it impassable, and even the bridge itself was directly blown up. The entire Osha country is a country of natural valleys and caves. It is the most extreme place in the south of Dongzhou. It was originally somewhat isolated from the world. Now it has been completely cut off from the outside world. It has become a lonely army with no news from the outside world. Our family has been guarding the demon phoenix for more than 2,000 years. I originally thought that with the emergence of talents in this generation, we would finally have hope to completely settle the 1,000-year grudges, but I didn't expect. Blackbeard touched a scar on his forehead. "What will happen if the demon phoenix escapes?" Tony among the boys and girls, a delicate-looking girl in leather armor stretched out her hand and gently held Blackbeard's right palm. Tony means father in Osha, and she is obviously the man's daughter. "Don't say such depressing words. My brother has inherited the moon mark and will definitely not let the demon phoenix break free of the seal." The girl wore brown leather armor that hugged her body and outlined her beautiful curves. Her long black hair was tied into a high ponytail and her hair was straight. It sticks out diagonally to the rear, and then hangs down, giving people a heroic temperament. Yes, uncle, we have inherited the moon mark, and we will definitely not let the demon phoenix break free of the seal, the boy in the lead said loudly, and the other boys and girls also echoed. The source of the demon phoenix's power is the black gold. Don't be careless. Only by destroying the black gold can you truly and temporarily destroy the root of the disaster. Blackbeard slowly raised his hand and raised it high. Charge! Kill! The shouts rang out, and there was another dull sound of horse hoofs. A group of hundreds of horsemen rushed out from the city gate, like a sharp knife, slashing and killing among the crowd. Permeated with a faint yellow halo, he held the long knife upside down and could kill the enemy accurately with each cut, just like cutting wheat. Get ready. If you continue to kill like this, the losses to Moyun Puppet will be too great. They will definitely not last long. They are probably going to be dispatched. Blackbeard's eyes were deep and he looked into the distance intently. People without moon marks cannot fight against the envoys of the demon throne. The next step will be up to you. All the boys and girls nodded heavily. There was a buzzing sound on their bodies, and after each sound, a dark golden glow appeared on their bodies. This glow was like spiritual energy, constantly emanating from their bodies. Each of these children's bodies had subtle changes, as if they had swelled, and were much taller than before. Leave it to us, uncle. The boy leading the team held the hilt of the big sword at his waist. Let's go. He turned around and led the rest of the people towards the city wall. Everyone, stand back. Retreat, the leader of the cavalry team who rushed out roared loudly, and led the team to charge back. The totem masters in the team continued to release a ray of magic-style light, but the strange thing was that none of the totem masters actually released a totem to fight, but just used the magic formula to fight. Even if there were casualties among the cavalry, they still had no intention of releasing the totem. On a high black cliff not far from Black Mountain City, 3 figures in purple armor stood quietly on the edge of the cliff, looking at the mountain city in the distance. Don't let the demon cloud puppet lose too much. These are still nutrients for the Lord. The woman's voice came from the purple armored man at the front. It was crisp and cold, but there was a hint of accent, as if there were 2 of her speaking at the same time. General. After thousands of years of entanglement, it's finally time to decide the winner. Another purple armored man whispered, indeed a gloomy male voice. The demon phoenix peak that existed thousands of years ago will finally be reopened. This time, no one will be able to stop the Lord's majesty and power. Kill the last of these moon scars, and there will no longer be any hindrance to the Lord's conquest of the world. The voice of the last purple armored man was high-pitched, but filled with a violent aura. Let's do it. The purple armored woman took a step forward, walked directly out of the cliff, and flew out. Hiss. A pair of huge purple fleshy wings suddenly appeared on her back, and with a pop of air, she flew towards the battlefield not far away. The other 2 people also flew off the cliff, with wings growing on their backs, and followed the woman closely. Behind the 3 people, on the Black Mountain cliff, in the middle of the entire mountain wall, a huge one-eyed eye suddenly opened. The bloody one eye seemed to be made of mountain rocks, but countless gravel plants and trees were twisted and blended to form the shape of a huge eye. Looking towards the Black Mountain City in the distance, the one-eyed gaze seemed to travel through space, directly meeting the eyes of the delicate girl next to Blackbeard on the mountain city wall. The girl felt dizzy, and a moon-white crescent mark appeared silently on her right cheek. We meet again, young Ashiga. A cold female voice seemed to ring directly over the entire city. The girl was trembling all over, with moon-white aura constantly exuding from her body, trying to resist the huge pressure brought by the sight. I won't let you get out of trouble like this, the girl gritted her teeth and insisted, her whole body trembling uncontrollably, and the cold sweat soaked the protective cotton armor inside her in just a short time. Blackbeard was also uncomfortable. He was even more miserable than his daughter. His whole body was shrouded in a purple light, his face was stiff, and he was half kneeling on the ground unable to resist. I feel the breath of fate, the cold woman's voice seemed to be sighing, everything today is destined to let me out of trouble, and the world will eventually change because of me. Before he finished speaking, a beam of light composed of black translucent chains fell from the sky and crashed into the center of the battlefield. The beam of light, which was several meters in diameter, was like a giant tree. It lasted on the ground for more than 10 seconds. The huge power fluctuation was like a hurricane, blowing everyone around it away at once, like dust ants blown away by the strong wind. The continuous buzzing sound directly interrupted and covered up One Eye's voice, making it impossible to hear what she said next. "Shinaun, you can't escape," a condescending man's voice sounded from high in the sky. The chain beam of light slowly spread out, and a white streak suddenly shot out. Its direction was obviously the direction of the One Eye on the black mountain wall. "No. That's the sealing place of the demon phoenix." When the two fathers and daughters on the city wall saw this, they were immediately stunned. The Uehenboy and Zijia, who had just caught each other, were also stunned. "That's it? That's it? Ha ha ha. I'm finally going to unblock everything that's happened for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. One Eye suddenly showed a crazy look of extreme surprise, and his voice of excitement echoed throughout the sky. Laugh. In the sky, a group of black clouds gathered out of thin air, forming a tall man wearing a black robe. His blonde hair was blowing in the wind, and his brows were filled with arrogance and contempt, like a cat catching a mouse. He raised one hand high and pressed down hard. Countless black clouds gathered together, forming a giant black hand in an instant, fiercely grabbing at the white light transformed by Shinaun and the two of them. "This is fate. An unstoppable fate." Demon Phoenix's voice became louder and louder. "Abyss demonic arm." Shen Yun's voice suddenly came out from the white light. In an instant, everyone only felt a flash of black light, and their eyes were blurred. In the white light, a sharp black arm slowly poked out, facing the black clouds, grasping hand head on. Boom! A black mushroom cloud exploded with a bang, and the white light was ejected by the explosion and hit the One Eye on the mountain wall hard. "Death." The voice of the man in black suddenly spread in the sky. Everyone on the battlefield only heard an electric crackle. A bolt of black lightning shot down violently. "Oh, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming." Then there was only a muffled sound like thunder. "Ha ha ha. I finally came out." Before the voice of Demon Phoenix finished shouting, he screamed and stopped suddenly. At this time, whether it was the Moonscar Boy, the fighting Black City Knight Totem Master, or the three purple armored winged men, they all looked at each other, their minds were dull, and it felt as if everything had turned into a paste. "The grudge between you and me will be completely settled today." The voice of the man in black spread far away. "Palace Master Kurosawa. Don't push me too hard." Another woman's voice came out in shock and anger. Hey. The three purple armored men stayed in mid-air, looking at the seal from a distance and the location of the One Eye on the stone wall. There, two lights and shadows, one black and one white, were constantly intertwined and colliding, and ripples of power that seemed to be substantial spread one after another. Everything touched by the ripples instantly melted and decomposed, turning into pools of black water. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 498. At this moment, another piece of red and golden light flew from the sky, and the entire half of the sky was dyed golden red. Countless golden and red rays of light twisted and weaved out of thin air, and soon they condensed into a tall silver-faced man in red robes. Without saying anything, he raised his hand and pointed downward. Red thunder and lightning suddenly condensed in the sky, converging into a thunder pillar, and crashed down. "Evil God King," a violent and angry voice came out from the intertwined black and white light and shadow. The black shadow flashed, avoiding the thunder pillar, retreating dozens of meters, and suspended in the air. Garen's extremely angry face clearly appeared in everyone's field of vision. He took a deep breath, his chest swelled high, and a vortex of black clouds with a diameter of more than 10 meters quickly gathered behind him. A black and red 9-headed dragon phantom slowly emerged behind him. The huge phantom tens of meters high made it look like a demon. Roar! Garen suddenly raised his head, and the 9 heads of the 9-headed dragon raised their heads to the sky and roared at the same time. Blackwater's true power pushed the peak dragon roar with all his strength. This was the first time Garen had fully unleashed the dragon roar after entering the 5th form. A circle of black ripples centered on him, spreading crazily around him. The ripples were like the sharpest blade, cutting through the cliff in the blink of an eye, and the entire upper half of the cliff, which was hundreds of meters long, suddenly slid down. The earth below was cleared into a huge circular pit in an instant, and the black stone pillars inside were broken into the smallest particles of sand. The ripples hit Shin'Ayun and AI-11 in an instant. The two of them had no time to react. They let out a miserable groan and flew backwards, embedding themselves into the ground with an unknown depth. The man in the blood-robed sky looked indifferent. Stupid struggle, he pointed again. A red beam of light gathered out of thin air and crashed down. Boom! The red beam of light hit the black ripples, and after a moment of stalemate, it suddenly broke through the ripples and hit Garen hard. Without even making a sound, Garen was hit to the ground. Centered around him, a huge crater hundreds of meters wide was formed again. Countless dust and gravels puffed up, forming a gray cloud. The strong wind blew the dust everywhere, and the sky seemed gray and blurry. Roar! With the roar of the dragon, Garen turned into a black light again, shot out from the ground, and headed straight for the evil God King in the sky. God's sacrifice, the evil God King turned his body and accurately avoided the impact of the black light. At the same time, a red hemisphere on his side flashed away, just blocking the Galleon black light. Bang! Boom! Garen's whole body exploded into countless blood mist. As soon as it condensed into a ball, it was smashed back to the ground by the huge rebound force. But there was a hint of surprise on the evil God King's face at this time. He stretched out his fingers and gently touched his right cheek, where a red blood stain slowly appeared. Ah! Garen's extremely angry roar came from below. In the huge pit, Garen was lying on his back in the middle, surrounded by countless red lightnings, like countless ropes trapping him. I let you go last time, thinking you would learn a lesson, but I didn't expect you to be so stupid and brainless. The evil God King glanced down contemptuously. With a wave of one hand, another red light fell from the sky and hit the giant pit where Garen was. Boom! The red light was dazzling, and nothing could be seen clearly for a while, except that the huge hole in the ground expanded a lot again and became much deeper. Dust drifts, obscuring vision. Shen-Yun and the two flew out of the pothole and landed slowly, their faces as white as paper, without any blood. After being chased by Garen for tens of thousands of miles and flying across countless countries and regions, he was now in a state of exhaustion. Fortunately, the evil god cult and the Black Sky Society are allies. The rescue was timely and his life was finally saved. Is it over? AI-11 supported Shin'Ayun and watched the evil God King slowly float down. Luke, I owe you once. Shen-Yun smiled bitterly and nodded to the evil God King. The evil God King nodded and was about to speak, but his expression suddenly changed. Faintly, in the giant pit where Garen was, waves of pitch-black auras slowly emitted, spreading towards the surroundings like living creatures. In the breath, the poisonous mist formed small black snakes from time to time, swimming around and making subtle hissing sounds. The evil God King's expression gradually became serious at this time. Unlike the seriously injured Shen-Yun and the other two, if the power just now could not pose a threat to him at all, then the current wave of power can already kill him. Suddenly, a black light shot out from the huge pit, soared into the sky, and fell slowly. Different from the irritability just now, the black light now showed a hint of calmness, and indifference. Snapped. Both feet landed on the ground of the giant pit. Garen's figure appeared in front of the three people again. Different from the violent and irritable mood just now, his face was soft at this time, and countless black mist lingered around him, which quickly condensed into a simple black robe and was draped around him. I would also like to thank God King for helping me digest the will of the ancient nine-headed dragon. I didn't expect that the separation state would be so difficult to solve. A smile appeared on Garen's face. In an instant, the three of them actually faintly saw another face on his face. That face was full of anger, unwillingness, and roaring. But it was only in a translucent state, overlapping on Garen's face. In a trance, angry faces and smiling faces seemed to be constantly switching between each other, giving people an extremely strange feeling. The evil God King's eyes narrowed slightly, a red light flashed across his lowered hands, and he directly put on a pair of red metal gloves. Interesting, he chuckled softly, and in the blink of an eye his hands appeared in front of his chest, turning into a fist and a palm to stab straight ahead. Bang! Garen didn't know when he appeared in front of him. The two of them fought with their arms, and there was a muffled sound. Not a trace of totem light splashed, showing extremely terrifying power control accuracy. Garen's punch was blocked, his arm folded, a black light flashed from his elbow and he struck hard, hitting the evil God King directly on the left side of his face. The other hand was turned into a knife, and it disappeared from its place with a scoff, stabbing the evil God King in the back of his head out of thin air. Snapped. The elbow was blocked, and it also missed a red light that happened to be emitted. The palm that stabbed the back of the head was blocked by the red hemisphere for a moment, and the hemisphere shattered. The evil God King's expression remained unchanged, and he opened his mouth and pointed it at Garen, with red light shining in his mouth. However, he was slightly hit on the cheek by a black energy, and failed again. Instead, Garen had the upper hand. The two of them were fighting in close combat on the edge of the giant pit. Their arms and legs could hardly be seen between their bodies, only a black and red light and shadow constantly intertwined and collided. With a bang, the evil God King suddenly stepped back, stepped hundreds of meters away and stood still. His face flashed a flush, and then he pressed down instantly, but his right ear involuntarily flowed out a trace of golden red blood. On the opposite side, Garen was in a worse situation. One of his arms was hanging limply from his body, which meant that both sides were injured. However, both of them are characters with super strong regenerative power. As soon as they stood still, their injuries were almost recovered, and they rushed towards each other again. Bang bang collisions sounded one after another. Compared with just now, the current fight was far less gorgeous than before, but the highly condensed totem power on the two of them was not ordinary, tyrannical and weird. Garen can continuously use his 9 life talent and potential points to repair his body, and the evil God King obviously has similar methods. The evil god's immortality is extremely obvious here. Any injury can be completely repaired in just a few breaths. Everyone on the city wall was completely numb at this time. Blackbeard stood in front of his daughter and had gathered all his troops back. A group of people gathered around him, all representatives of the city's big and small leaders. At this time, everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at the terrifying fighting outside that was like a natural disaster. "Where is the demon phoenix?" someone asked. "This monster that the family has guarded for thousands of years is still the existence that everyone cares about the most." "There," someone found a trace and pointed over there from a distance. Everyone looked in the direction and saw a human figure dressed all in black, leading 3 purple armored men to tiptoe into the distance. Everyone was speechless for a while. "I thought that the most terrifying existence in Osha, the demon phoenix, was the most powerful force in the world. Once she was released, all life would be devastated and the world would be in chaos. Did not expect. This gap is indeed a bit too big. City Lord, "What should we do now?" a soldier asked Blackbeard in a low voice. Blackbeard opened his mouth. Even with his eyesight, he could clearly see that Demon Phoenix looked frightened at this time, fearing that he would be discovered by the people in the fight. He really didn't know what to say about such a Demon Phoenix. Maybe we have been isolated from the world for too long, he smiled bitterly. Without the mission, what else can we do? He was a little confused. Not only him, but everyone present looked confused. The Moyun puppets outside had already suffered all casualties in the aftermath of the fight, and they couldn't even bear the aftermath. This was simply a fantasy. Not to mention these puppets, it was the 3 purple armored leaders. One was wiped aside by the red beam of light and half of his body was gone. The other was hit in the face by a sputtering stone and was beaten to tears. If it weren't for their tenacious vitality, they would have been completely killed in just the aftermath. At this point, no one cares about missions or Magic Phoenix anymore. In front of that group of people, Demon Phoenix was just a toddler, vulnerable to a single blow. Blackbeard's mind was in chaos, and at this moment, the 2 people separated again in the distance. One black and one red flew out. The black figures jumped several times and flashed past the heads of the 4 Demon Phoenix people. Surrounded by black energy, the 4 Demon Phoenix people screamed and flew up directly wrapped in the black mist. The 2 people looked extremely miserable. The head and body of the one in red were separated. He used both hands to press the head back up again, and a large amount of fleshy buds grew on the neck and was sutured. It looks extremely weird. The man in black had a half-meter diameter hole in the middle of his chest. The internal organs and other things inside could be clearly seen, but he could still move freely without any impact at all. "Is this a human being?" someone couldn't help but screamed with a horrified look on his face. The Demon Phoenix was captured by them, Blackbeard's daughter screamed. "Tony, what should we do? Magic Phoenix has been captured, A group of people looked at each other, completely aimless. The enemy they had been guarding for thousands of years was captured without any resistance. It looked like they were capturing a few chickens. This makes them, a group of hidden sects who have been guarding the world for thousands of years, embarrassed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 499. Blackbeard's mind was a mess, but when he saw everyone around him turning their attention to him, he tried to clear things up and figure out a few key points. Without the Demon Phoenix, there is no point for us to guard here. It seems we have to find a way to leave here and the outside world. How long has it been since you have been in contact with the outside world? I always thought that we were protecting the world from the extremely evil Demon Phoenix, for true peace, but I didn't expect that we were too self-righteous, Blackbeard sighed. Uncle, at this time, the young man leading the group of Moonscars suddenly spoke. He lowered his head and his voice was low, but there was a sense of unwavering determination. We must go see the outside world. There was silence among the people around. But they immediately spoke out again. What about the bridge of withdrawal? That's the only way out. There is no way to break through the hexagonal giant bull, and no one can leave Osha. How did those people get in? We must be able to get out like this. They are so strong, Perhaps the six-cornered giant bull has been solved by those people. Go and have a look. Yes, go and have a look, just in case, go and have a look. After a while, the various disputes and discussions quickly turned into a unified voice, go and have a look. At this time, everyone turned their attention to 2 people, the Moonscar Boy and Blackbeard. These 2 people are the ones who really have the right to speak in the entire small town. Our duty is to protect the Demon Phoenix from causing trouble. Now that the Demon Phoenix has been captured, We must find out what that person's purpose is. Blackbeard thought for a while and finally found such a reason for himself. All members of their clan are soldiers, and they can leave at will. After all, it is our duty to protect you for thousands of years, Blackbeard said with certainty. Let's go find the man in black. Find the demon phoenix, and take a real look at the whole world. Tony, what I heard just now is that the people fighting were called the Man in Black, Palace Master Kurosawa, and the Evil God King. They all spoke Enite with a strange accent, the most gifted person present at the language. Blackbeard's daughter spoke. She was the 1,000-year reincarnation of the legendary sage Ashiga. Ashiga was the great sage who sealed the demon phoenix. Therefore, his status among everyone is very special. Such a powerful person must not be an unknown person. We will definitely find out if we go out and find a place with people and ask around. Blackbeard nodded. He looked at the devastated battlefield outside. Without the power of the demon phoenix, the puppets all fell to the ground and returned to the state of dead corpses. Let's get out of the city, he shouted at last. 10 days later. Take a deep breath. Garin sat cross-legged on the ground, recuperating his body, and spitting out a mouthful of blood from time to time. It was obvious that he was extremely seriously injured. This is a barren black land plain, surrounded by silence. Not far away are the corpses of several giant white-haired wolves that are melting into black pus. Mohuang and the three of them stood cautiously on one side, watching Garin close his eyes and adjust his breathing. The four of them exchanged glances and began to move out silently. A faint purple halo enveloped the four people, covering up all the subtle sounds of the collision of their footsteps. In the eyes of the four of them, a large cylindrical hole was opened in the chest, and the entire body was just a little bit broken into two sections. Such an injury was extremely serious even for them, not to mention humans. This person must have run out of energy at the moment and doesn't have much strength. But recalling the waves of terror and aftermath of the battle just now, while the four people's hearts trembled, the first thought they had was not to resist, but the thought of escaping became more profound. The steps moved slowly, and time passed slowly minute by minute. Garin's breathing became more and more steady, and his eyes showed no sign of opening, as if he was asleep. Finally, they were about to retreat to the back of a stone pillar, and the four of them breathed a sigh of relief. Where do you want to go? Suddenly a calm male voice came from behind. The four people's hearts were beating wildly and they froze, standing where they were without daring to move. Only then did they realize that at some point under their legs, traces of black gas were slowly rising from the ground. The black energy vaguely condensed into the shape of a small snake, and its eyes stared at them coldly with black light. Stay here and don't run around. Garin opened his eyes and looked at the remaining potential points on the attribute bar. There were still more than 10 points, which were simply not enough. In the battle with the evil God King, he frantically fought a war of attrition, and all the hundreds of accumulated potential points were consumed, so that he could continue to maintain the perfect 9-life state of his 9-life talent. But it also consumed too many potential points. 20 points of potential are used to replenish 1 life chance. This kind of consumption usually seems like nothing, but at this time, there are only more than 10 points left. Garin breathed out, the smell of blood was extremely strong. His ears twitched slightly, and he stood up. A cloud of black air suddenly appeared under his feet. It turned into a black light and disappeared in place, flying towards the distance. Mohuang and the others breathed a sigh of relief. My lord, what should we do now? The purple-armored woman quietly asked beside Demon Phoenix. Don't be anxious. That person doesn't know why he caught us. But since he caught us and didn't kill us right away, he must have a reason. Don't mess up. The helmet on Demon Phoenix's head has been wrapped in black air just now. At that time, it was corroded into black water, revealing a beautiful and charming woman's face underneath. The woman has a healthy wheat color, one blue and one purple eye, her ears are slightly sharp, and she doesn't look like a human being. She also has long purple-black hair that looks like feathers, and her whole person faintly exudes a powerful and strange aura. I didn't expect that I, the demon phoenix, had been in power for thousands of years, and now at the end of the day, actually. The demon phoenix stood with his hands behind his hands, looking up at the sky, with deep and complicated emotions in his heart. Bang! There was a sound of something heavy falling to the ground. What are you doing standing there stupidly? Come over and cook. Garen's voice came from not far away. Oh, Mo Huang looked blank, and hurried over to drag up the huge yellow bear body that was more than 10 meters long on the ground. The other 3 people hurried over to help. In the past few days, Garen went out to hunt monsters and brought them back for Mo Huang and the others to process the ingredients and make various dishes. Garen did not expect that the food made by Mo Huang and others tasted very good. Just leave this task to them completely. But it seems different today. Just as Mo Huang and the others were preparing to dispose of the giant bear's body, a black light fell to the ground not far away and turned into Garen's figure. The difference this time was that there was a group of more than 10 yellow giant bears behind him. This kind of giant bear has white sharp horns on its chest, which are bent toward the sky. The sharp horns can emit 3 times the pressure of gravity. These more than 10 gravity giant bears were obviously driven here by Garen. Everyone gathered together, not daring to move at all. There are small black snakes floating in the air around them. These small snakes are purely composed of black air. The huge level of the 5th type peak suppresses them. Not to mention these gravity bears, even Demon Phoenix and others feel bursts of suffocation. Dare not get too close. Soon a purple bonfire was lit. The Demon Phoenix controlled the power of the demon cloud that released the purple fire with one hand, and grabbed one of the giant bear's hind legs with the other hand. The purple armored woman on the other side hugged the giant bear's head. The 2 of them, one on each side, set up the whole bear and hung it over the fire for roasting. The skinned giant bear meat was red and dripping with blood, but soon it began to hiss under the purple fire. Voice. There was also a faint smell of meat. From time to time, streams of purple-black smoke rushed into their faces, making them smoky and gray. By the time the giant bear was roasted, the 2 of them were already smelling of smoke and their image was ruined. The other 2 men were responsible for such dirty work as skinning, bleeding, and eviscerating. The 4 of Demon Phoenix plus Garen, who was sitting down to rest with his eyes closed again, a total of 5 people, formed a small temporary camp. The 4 of them are busy with their own affairs. Now they are all prisoners of Garen. The original status gap is now evened out. Whether it is Mo Huang or his 3 subordinates, they all cooperate with each other in cooking, and no one has the time to think about others. After the meat was roasted, the task of mixing condiments was handed over to the chef, the purple-armored woman. Mo Huang got up and went around to look for edible plants and vegetables. Galen said that eating only meat is not enough. It is healthy to have a combination of meat and vegetables. After several in-depth ideological and physical educations, Mo Huang is now able to consciously get up and go around to find some vegetables with good taste. After all, not everyone likes to be seriously injured 15 times in an hour. You can't go too far in search of vegetables. Fortunately, Garen's appetite is very good. His extremely powerful physique makes him only care about the taste. As for whether it is poisonous or not, there is no need to consider it at all. Demon Phoenix walked hundreds of meters away and thought about running away, but unfortunately, several small black snakes wrapped around her body made her give up this idea. It is very easy to find plants with type 5 strength. No matter whether on the ground or underground, you can't escape the Demon Phoenix's fiery eye. When she returned, the bear meat had been prepared, and the fresh green vegetables and golden bear meat looked appetizing. Under the eyes of several people swallowing their saliva, Garen tore into the bear meat with big mouthfuls, making his mouth full of oil. The rich aroma wafts around. But they didn't dare to move. Only when the galleons were finished would they be able to eat by themselves. Soon, half an hour later, Garin threw away the thigh bone in his hand. The purple-armored woman on the side quickly gave him a freshly washed hand towel and wiped his mouth. Garin nodded with satisfaction. "Keep an eye on these little things." "I'm going out first," he ordered calmly. "Yes," Mohuang and others responded quickly. "Yes." Garin stood up. The injuries on his body had almost recovered. With a bang, his whole body exploded and turned into a ball of black mist and flew away. Soon, there was a loud bang in the distance, and a huge black stone pillar slowly broke into pieces and collapsed. A faint roar could be heard. Needless to say, the fight has started again. Mohuang and the others looked into the distance. They could only see dust all over the sky, black clouds and red light intertwined, and nothing else could be seen. The terrifying oscillations can be clearly felt dozens of kilometers away. In fact, when they first came to this plain, it was still very prosperous. All kinds of tyrannical monsters are everywhere, claiming territory as kings, and the desolate roars of beasts can be heard every afternoon and evening. But since those two people came here, the entire plain has become silent. I haven't asked for votes for a long time. Don't forget to support this book. I don't ask for rewards or anything else. It's mainly recommendations. I look forward to the book reaching millions in the end. As long as the monthly ticket doesn't look too ugly. Also, thank you all for your continued support. Only. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 500. Among the snow-covered peaks, inside the Black Ruins Cathedral. Schools with different robe colors gathered together, more than 100 people, all of whom were the strongest elite of the entire Dongzhou School Association. At this time, everyone felt a different solemn atmosphere than before. Standing in the center of the crowd are 4 camps with different robe colors. The 4 colors of robes, black, white, green and red, represent the 4 strongest schools in Dongzhou. The strongest refers not only to strength, but also to research ability, potential, knowledge, etc., through comprehensive comparison. At this time, among the people, there was a circle of black stone high-back seats, inlaid with purple gems that looked like eyes. Representatives of the leaders of many schools gathered in a circle, with the red ball as the center, and their eyes fell on the open space below the red ball in the center of the hall. The giant suspended red ball was like a fireball, hanging high, and the bottom was illuminated red. 2 figures faced each other, an old man and a middle-aged man. The old man's right hand was trembling slightly, and a floating swordfish totem behind him was slowly decomposing, releasing countless black particles. "Master Yingdong, clear it out." The middle-aged man opposite took a deep breath and said in a deep voice while suppressing the severe pain in his abdomen. In the 4th round of the debate, the Bluebird Association wins, one side reported loudly. The old man snorted coldly, turned around and left the stage, returning to sit down among the crowd of people in blue robes. The 5th game. Bluebird Society vs. St. Lange School. The sect leader of St. Lange rose into the air, and the shadow of a light bluebird appeared under his feet. He stepped on it and gently floated down to the middle of the field. In this fight for unification, the leader of the Black Sky sect is the enlightened master worthy of following us. The glory of the Dongzhou school can only be truly achieved by the leader of the Ghost section. The dispute between schools is a 1,000-year battle. No one can overturn the 1,000-year tradition, the president of the Bluebird Society said solemnly. "Stop talking nonsense, let's do it." The other party was too lazy to say anything. He grabbed his right palm and a large number of light bluebirds appeared out of thin air around him. A wavy black dagger appeared in his left hand, stabbing towards the opponent silently. President Bluebird stepped on his feet, and his arms suddenly turned into 2 giant wings of a bluebird, and flew towards the opponent. Gui Men, who was sitting in his seat, was smiling, but the Sisley couple opposite him had solemn expressions. The 2 sides, together with their supporters behind them, were divided into two clearly defined sides. The intention of Gaiman is already obvious: to completely unify all schools of thought and put an end to the contention of 100 schools of thought in Dongzhou. No one wants their inheritance to be cut off from now on, and no school or association can tolerate their independence being cut off and reduced to a pawn of the Black Sky Society. After each battle, the leaders came out one after another, and among them there were also newly emerged geniuses of association and new strong men. But the result turned out to be even more chilling, with more and more people in the Black Sky Society camp winning. Now the Bluebird Society is already the strongest school apart from the Earthly Flower Society. If even he is defeated, everyone's heart sank little by little. Complex and gorgeous, returning to nature, the 4 types of strong men, and even the 5 types of sect leaders' various strange totem scenes are reflected in the eyes of the Ghost Gate, as if the clear mirror reflects the thousands of worlds, but does not leave any traces. Before we knew it, it was finally the final ranking battle for the top 4. At this moment, Gaiman stood up with a smile. Similarly, Sisley and his wife on the opposite side slowly stood up. The two looked at each other, smiled, and walked onto the stage hand in hand. President of the Ghost Gate Sisley held her husband's hand tightly, feeling calm and peaceful like never before. The Earth Flower Society challenges the Black Sky Society and fights to the death. Gaiman walked onto the stage and faced the two of them. Even now, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of appreciation in his eyes. The grudges that occurred 200 years ago should be completely settled today. The people around were in an uproar. No one thought that the president of Daihua Society would actually fight to the death with Haitian Society. Gaiman showed a smile, and the body under the dark armor was like a huge mountain, making everyone almost breathless. Snapped. He suddenly took a step. Buzz. A low vibration spread all at once. Under his feet, the ground slowly opened with cracks, like scars on the earth, and black magma silently gushes out. The magma emits a large amount of white smoke, and countless twisted and painful faces float in the smoke. The hall began to shake slightly. The sky was changing, countless black clouds were gathering quickly, and the entire sky suddenly became dark and gloomy. Woo! Standing in the hall, strong winds poured in from outside, causing the blue torches on the stone pillars to sway and almost go out. Gaiman, do you really want to do this? The leader of the Red Lotus Society stood up and slowly stood together with Sisley and his wife. Click. Lightning flashed across, and everyone's faces were instantly illuminated pale. A heavy invisible pressure completely enveloped everyone, and everyone could only hear their own heartbeat and breathing. Let's begin. This boring game should be over. The wrinkles on Gaiman's forehead deepened, and he slowly opened his hands, as if he wanted to hug something. A sudden jolt. Boom. All the pillars of the entire cathedral exploded and broke in an instant. Everyone around them was instantly shaken open and overwhelmed by the violent force. But almost at the same time, various university associations formed light groups of different sizes, but they were shattered in the blink of an eye. It split open, and the totems that had just been summoned were completely annihilated before they even had time to cry out. The crowd was overwhelmed one after another, forced to kneel to the ground by an inexplicable force. Sisley, can you also see that door? Inexplicably, the words from back then appeared in Gaiman's mind. The door in the sky. That is the door that leads the dead into the kingdom of heaven. Suddenly, everything in front of me seemed to be the same as when I was a child. Sisley held his hand and ran on the coast, the sunset lengthening the shadows of the two of them. You've gone crazy. Sisley didn't know when a white and silver longsword appeared in his hand, with a circle of crystal diamond light spots surrounding the sword tip. Come back to me, Gaiman said in a low voice. Don't you see? That door is opening. Memory and reality kept overlapping, making it almost impossible for him to tell who was reality and who was illusion. Sure enough, everything was caused by you. The appearance of black copper and the mutation of the earth Sisley held her husband's hand tightly, and the two held the silver sword together. The source of trouble, the old man from the Red Lotus Society looked downcast, with anger in his eyes. Two red flames slowly ignited on his shoulders, and a flaming red lotus-like crown appeared above his head. The world is in chaos because of you lunatics who are pursuing the gate of heaven. Gaiman's face showed confusion. I'm not crazy. I just want to open that door and see what's inside. On the Black Plain, the fights between Garen and the evil God King became more and more frequent. It used to be once a few days, but soon the rhythm became faster and faster, and it became once a day. Now more than a month has passed and it has become 3 times a day. Call. A huge, living black elephant was photographed from the sky and quickly thrown into the huge black dragon's mouth. The dragon's mouth was made of black smoke. The giant black elephant, which was more than 10 meters long, was thrown in with fear. It didn't even bubble up. With a grunt, the black dragon swallowed it whole. The completely missing lower body of Garen, who was sitting cross-legged below, suddenly grew a new body at a speed visible to the naked eye. Mohuang and the others originally wanted to grill the food for Garen, but now it's too late. They don't even need to grill it and just eat it alive. On one side, a group of giant black elephants were also driven away as livestock. These mutated monsters huddled aside and shivered. After swallowing a dozen giant black elephants alive, the darkness in Garen's eyes slowly faded, and the injuries on his body were completely healed. Without saying a word, he stood up and turned into a black light again, shooting into the distance. After a while, red thunder and lightning mixed with black air in the distant sky, and you didn't need to guess to know that the two were fighting again. The chaotic roar lasted for more than an hour before falling silent. Garen's arms were completely gone, and he flew back from afar. As soon as he landed, he picked up several giant elephants, and the black smoke turned into a huge mouth and swallowed one in one bite. Moo! The giant elephant screamed miserably, but was unable to escape at all. The injury gradually improved. Garen's hands also grew. At this point in his life, the light of the totem has been completely integrated into his body. There is no such thing as breaking the light of the totem is equivalent to a serious injury to the totem. The body's strength increased abnormally, and the lethality of his movements also increased horribly. The power after fusion in the body can absolutely suppress any lower-level totem power. The 9-headed dragon has a terrifying regenerative power. In addition, during this period of time, it keeps going out to hunt to accumulate potential points, so it can barely maintain a balanced situation. Fighting against the evil God King every day, both sides are already very familiar with each other's moves and abilities. The evil God King practices a magic skill called the Sun Seal Magic Wheel, which is said to be able to activate the power of the sun to fight. But it is necessary to constantly extract and gather the essence of the yin side of other people to balance the power of the sun to yang. The terrifying thing about this secret weapon is its extremely powerful lethality and explosive power. Without any warning, the most powerful force can be erupted in just a moment. I had heard of this magic skill, Galen, in the information in the library of the Kuwaitan Palace, but I didn't expect that the evil God King actually practiced this secret martial art. He is far inferior to the evil God King in terms of lethality and explosive power. Although the Black Water True skill can allow mortals to enter the extraordinary realm, in terms of increased strength, it is simply vulnerable to the Sun Seal Magic Wheel. Fortunately, using the combination of Garen's 9 life talent and potential points, he was able to maintain an undefeated situation with a lose-lose style of play. Of course, Garen's goal is not as simple as just figuring out the opponent's secret martial arts skills. Puff! The evil God King sat down on the ground, his face as white as paper, and one of his thighs was completely missing. This was the result of being accidentally approached by Garen. Now I can only sit up with one leg crossed, but I can barely sit still. Shinaun and AI-11 had long since disappeared, and he was the only one left on the Black Plain. All the things on his body that could be contacted had been destroyed by the successive battles, and there was nothing left. Now even the clothes can only be imitated with totem energy. In more than a month, the evil God King had dealt with it relatively easily at the beginning, then had a hard time dealing with it, and now, he will be seriously injured by the opponent if he is not careful. The opponent's progress was so rapid that even if he had lived for hundreds of years, he had never seen such a terrifying talent in secret martial arts. Even the previous generation of evil God King couldn't have made such terrifying and obvious progress. What chilled the evil God King the most was not this, but the fact that the other party seemed to be secretly figuring out the operation route and power output principle of his Sun Seal magic wheel. The Sun Seal magic wheel is a terrifying magic technique created by the secret martial arts master when the previous evil God King was dying. Its complexity far exceeds that of ordinary secret martial arts techniques, and its difficulty is at least dozens of times that of ordinary techniques. But just like that, that galleon has actually shown a hint of some signs of the Sun Seal magic wheel. This shocked the evil God King, who had always been relaxed. He was really unbearable and planned to return to the headquarters of the evil God cult. But now I have given up this idea. If he wants to keep Galen, he must find a way to completely eliminate this serious trouble. Such a terrifying progress speed, if he is given more time. If you go back directly to the headquarters of the evil God cult, or simply commit suicide, the origin will be resurrected in the headquarters. In this way, although you are freed from the entanglement, the other party will not foolishly chase you to the headquarters. It would be too difficult to seize the opportunity to kill the opponent in the future. There has to be a way. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 501. A few days later. On the Black Plain, in the shade of a huge black stone pillar. I will fight with you. The demon phoenix yelled and rushed forward, a violent and strange purple halo suddenly lit up, and a large purple one-eyed shadow slowly lit up behind her. Laugh. Before the phantom completely turned into reality, it was directly deflated like a balloon by a wisp of black air. The demon phoenix that rushed over was grabbed by Garen's face and slammed to the ground. A circular pit several meters wide opened up in the ground and enveloped the two of them. A large amount of smoke and dust flew up, forming a gray cloud for a while, making it impossible to see what was going on inside. Your structure is very interesting. I won't eat you for the time being. Don't worry. Garen retracted his hand, coughed a few times, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth again. He continued to close his eyes and practice breathing. These days, he doesn't need to peel the skin off, he just eats it whole. It must eat more than 10 huge living animals like black giant elephants every day as a nutritional supplement for the 9-headed dragon's regenerated limbs. The more Mohuang and the others watched, the more frightened they became. They vaguely guessed that Garen took them with him. On the one hand, he might be looking for someone to serve him, and on the other hand, the most likely reason was to block the food and pig reserves. After several days of simmering emotions, despair and courage finally broke out. Under the planning of 3 subordinates, Demon Phoenix finally found an opportunity. Today, when Garen came back, he was also seriously injured and the left side of his body was blown away. Taking this opportunity, Demon Phoenix suddenly attacked. Then he was suppressed suddenly and unexpectedly. Naturally, Garen's decision to seize the Demon Phoenix was not arbitrary. When the will of the 9-headed dragon and the evil God King were fighting, through the area covered by the Black Water True Skills aura induction, he unexpectedly discovered that there were several special and weird life forms, the weirdest of which was the Demon Phoenix. After careful detection, the blood in Demon Phoenix's body actually had an ancient aura similar to the ancient will of the 9-headed dragon. This surprised him even more. It wasn't much of a burden anyway, so he just carried the 4 of them away when he left. As expected, creatures like the Demon Phoenix must be long-lived creatures, which is indeed good news for him. Although the Silver Lantern Masters have various methods to extend their lives, the royal records record that the longest lifespan of the most powerful totem master in history is about 400 years. Even if various means are used to extend life, the most effective one is the means of transforming life into a totem. The evil gods of the evil god cult use this method to become evil gods. But even the evil god totem has a lifespan limit. That's the number 400. This is the limit of life. So after Garen felt the ancient aura of the demon phoenix, he decisively captured all four of them. Good research on the secrets of longevity. After a moment of silence, Demon Phoenix got up from the ground. The courage he had just now had completely disappeared. Dejectedly, he squatted aside with his three subordinates, and honestly began to sew simple clothes for Garen. He used animal skins and bone needles, plus a few feathered birds he had caught recently, to make simple one-time clothes. No big deal. Demon Phoenix has endured it for thousands of years, and no one can bear the humiliation better than her. This was the case when she first met the sage Agasa. She couldn't help but admit her mistake decisively. Anyway, she lived long enough. As long as she lived longer than others, time would defeat the most powerful enemy for her. Unexpectedly, Agasa would seal her away for 1,000 years before she died. But that was before. Her brain was not strong enough before. After thousands of years of hard work, she is now much more flexible. Demon Phoenix's eyes flickered, thinking about how to get rid of the monster's clutches. That guy is as powerful as Ashiga back then, but no matter how strong a person is, he will always have weaknesses. My lord. I have an idea, the purple-armored woman whispered from the side. What can you do? Tell me. Mohuang quietly came over. As long as we listen to that man honestly, I don't think he will necessarily eat us. After a few hundred years, he dies of old age and we will be free again. As long as we behave better this time and don't get caught, seal it, and what happened in Ashiga will definitely not happen again. The purple-armored woman looked determined. Good idea, Demon Phoenix clapped her fists. Although her mind was a little unclear after thousands of years of not using her brain, she didn't think so. Who can survive longer between us and him? The other two people also leaned over to agree. As long as a strong man needs subordinates, as long as we are honest, there will definitely be no danger. Garen on the side opened his eyes, glanced at the four people, and closed his eyes again speechlessly. Without the aura of the ancient strong men, these four people are just four people with mental problems. I guess I have always used muscles to solve problems before, but now I suddenly encounter something that muscles cannot solve, and I am completely confused. After resting for a while, suddenly a subtle fluctuation came from the distance. Garen opened his eyes, raised his hand and released a large amount of black energy, covering everyone. Walk. The five people rose into the sky, turned into a black cloud, and chased towards the distant place. The mutated creatures that had been driven into captivity on the ground quickly fled in all directions as if they had been granted amnesty. Another few days passed. On the hilly grassland, the stars in the night sky are shining with silver light. The white jade sickle moon hangs quietly in the sky, surrounded by faint clouds. Garen and his group set up a bonfire on the grassland, which was as clear and eye-catching as a bright yellow chess piece on a black chessboard. White smoke rushed up, was blown to the left by the wind, dispersed, and then disappeared. What is this place? Garen asked casually while sitting by the campfire, fiddling with the fire. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, he remembered that it was impossible for Demon Phoenix to know the current geography, so he stopped saying anything. Not sure. Mohuang answered cautiously. She had already accepted her fate, and after making sure that Garen would not eat her, she decisively used her best trick, patience. I have endured it for thousands of years, and it is not a big problem to endure it for a few hundred more. Moreover, compared to before, I can now see new scenery everywhere, and the treatment is obviously much better. Garen glanced at her. Put away the less human parts of you, okay? Yes. Yes, Mohuang nodded quickly. She has been beaten and frightened these days, and now she is obedient and considers herself a servant of Galen. After a while of adjustment, the strange features on Demon Phoenix and others were put away one after another, and they all turned into ordinary human shapes. The three subordinates, 2 men and 1 woman, all took off their armor and melted it back into clothes similar in style to galleons, also revealing their hidden faces underneath. The purple-armored woman changed into a purple robe. She was the first general of the Demon Phoenix, and her name was Phantom. There is nothing to say about her appearance and figure. She is an absolute top beauty with a delicate appearance. But when she speaks with a strange double voice, she immediately scares people. The other 2 men also look similar. They are beautiful and innocent, with long purple hair. From the appearance, they can't be seen as men at all. They don't even have beards. If it weren't for the slight Adam's apple and the lack of breasts, they would just have that pretty face and enchanting look. With their stature, no one would recognize them as men. The names of the 2 people are also weird, Terra and Lotta. Mohuang explained that when she first selected her subordinates, beauty was the main criterion. After the 4 guys made a few jokes, they finally became a little more honest. Garen took advantage of his free time to chase the evil God King and began to ask about the situation on the Demon Phoenix side. Ashiga was originally a chaotic place with 5 countries. We have been living there since we were born. The people there worshipped us as gods. Later, Ashiga appeared and killed me. A large number of servants and subordinates. After we finally defeated us, they didn't know why they didn't kill me. They sealed me when she was dying. Until now, it seems that Ashiga doesn't want to live anymore after her man is dead, and I don't want to live either. I don't know the specific reason. Demon Phoenix talked about the past in a confused and illogical manner. On one side, several subordinates were carefully grilling food and making soup with a few plant roots dug out of the ground. The grassland was unusually quiet, with only the faint howl of wolves coming from far away. Since the master of the lair gathered a large number of powerful monsters, the ones left wandering outside are either low in IQ or weak in strength. Even the master of the lair does not regard them as the same kind. For Type 5 strong men, as long as they are willing, they can scare away almost all monsters without hiding their scent. But this is a bit tricky for Garen. Without powerful enough monsters, he cannot replenish enough potential points. Fortunately, the evil god King Maiwa's operation route has some clues. The key point that makes him stronger than the secret martial artists in this world is that his understanding of the secret martial arts has reached a terrifying height with the support of the level in the previous world. This has nothing to do with realm, just pure experience. He had read a lot of secret martial arts in the world of secret martial arts, and now he was working backwards on the evil god King's Sun Seal magic will magic skill. The progress was much faster than the evil god King had imagined. As long as the entire demonic derivation is completed, there will no longer be any problem in refining and absorbing the evil god's origin. He casually chatted with Mohuang and the others, and ordered them to keep vigil. If there was any movement from the evil god King, call him immediately. He himself lay on the grass and slowly fell asleep. Even though his black water true skill has amazing endurance, after 2 months of continuous chasing and fighting with basically no rest in between, such terrifying consumption has almost reached the limit even for him. Once he closed his eyes, he never wanted to open them again. Fatigue instantly overwhelmed him like a tide. I don't know how long I slept, but when I opened my eyes, it was all white. It's completely bright now. A strong aroma similar to potato soup penetrated his nostrils. Feeling a little pain in his head, Garen slowly sat up and saw that Demon Phoenix and Phantom were busy making soup, while Lotta and Terra were squatting on the ground washing some plant leaves they had just found. The sky was completely blank, and the wind was a little chilly. Standing up from the grass, Garen looked towards the evil god king from a distance. There was no movement in the aura fluctuations there. It was obvious that he had rested a little for the night. Relying on his physical fitness with attribute bonuses, his powerful secret martial arts realm, and the grip of the troll and other factors, he was able to achieve peak combat effectiveness at the lower level of Type 5. But in fact, we competed all the way. Garen also seems to have a clear positioning of his own efforts. Among the top 5 types, he is considered the weakest. Needless to say, Shen Yun, who was injured in the first place, still managed to let him escape so far away despite being chased for so long. The evil god king in the back is even more exaggerated. The ability attacks he sends out are basically hurt when touched and killed when hit. If the black water true skill is not highly concentrated and condensed on the body surface, it will not even be able to break through the opponent's defense, let alone cause serious damage. It's simply not possible to use black water to condense and extend the hands and feet like in the past. The lethality is too weak. So far, the evil god king is also immortal, but he has not died even once. In other words, just injuring him, the evil god's origin consumed in this way is not worth mentioning to the opponent. But he himself has died no less than 20 times and been seriously injured more than 30 times. If it weren't for the 9 life talent that can be supplemented with potential points, and the terrifying regeneration power of the 9-headed dragon, he would not be qualified to fight with the opponent to this point. Although he successfully suppressed the violent will of the 9-headed dragon and improved his strength a lot, it was still far behind the evil god king. Thinking about it again, the evil god king is now suppressed by pharaohs, has no shining water, and even ran away when he saw pharaohs. Garen weighed the contrast in his mind. In the end, his strength was positioned at the level of the Master of the Star King Palace. The Master of the Star King Palace can also confront Chinaeun with the Twisted Pearl. Although he is slightly at a disadvantage, he is still the pinnacle of Type 5. It is said that as the boss of the mathematics organization, his strength ranks among the top 3 among the 3 major organizations. Counting the Council of Elders, it ranks among the top 5. The Council of Elders is a behemoth that spans the East and West states, gathering all the top powerhouses. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 502. Of course, there are probably only 4 or 5 people at the peak level of Type 5, and pharaohs must be one of them. The bosses of the 3 major organizations must be at the peak level. There is also the possibility of a Speaker of Parliament. It turns out that the old guy in history was killed by the Ghost Gate while underground. When I think of the Ghost Gate, Garen's heart trembled slightly. Calculating the time, it is almost time for the Ghost Gate to be born. He had been fighting against the evil god king, secretly learning secret martial arts, but he had almost forgotten such a big thing. After all, when fighting against a master of the evil god king's level, you must devote yourself wholeheartedly, otherwise you will be completely trapped by accident, and no matter how many lives you have, you will end up being wiped out. After eating soup and barbecue, Garen sat aside and saw bursts of smoke floating in the direction of the evil god king from a distance. Obviously he was also eating. But it was obvious that he was not as leisurely as he was. After searching his body for a while, Garen finally remembered that all his belongings had been destroyed in the deadly fight during this period. Black clouds filled the air beneath his feet, and his whole body slowly floated, flying higher and higher. The people below Mohuang didn't dare to say anything, they just stayed where they were and took care of things. The people below are getting smaller and smaller, and the entire field of view is getting wider and wider. Galleon slowly rose up, scanning the surrounding plains and meadows. Soon, there was faint smoke from a campfire more than 10 kilometers away. He kicked off his feet, and black air surrounded the package and spurted out from behind, shooting in that direction like a meteor. The evil God King's side moved slightly, but in the end he still stopped and did not take the opportunity to leave. Garen flew close to the campfire and saw three figures dressed as adventurers standing up and looking towards the side of a winding river from a distance. They looked like they were facing a formidable enemy. He already held the weapon in his hand, and two wild boar totems covered in white bone spurs were released. The three adventurers were wearing dusty dark brown cotton armor, 2 men and 1 woman. Their faces were covered with wind and frost. They had obviously been walking on this grassland for a long time. When Garen flew closer, the three of them saw that the person wrapped in the black air was actually a young man. Unexpectedly, their eyes suddenly glowed with hope and enthusiasm. "Powerful Totem Master, do you need any help?" Seeing that the other party was a man, the woman among the three stood up and spoke proactively. Normally, people of the opposite sex are easier to deal with. "Do you have a radio?" The other person spoke fluent Kuwaitan, and Garen responded directly in Kuwaitan. "Radio?" Yes, yes." The woman quickly asked her companion to take out a small white and silver square box. There was a metal antenna on it and a knob for tuning the station in the middle. It was basically the same as a radio on Earth. Garen grabbed it with one hand, and a stream of white water vapor immediately grabbed the radio and flew it up. It landed firmly in his hand with a snap. Just as he was about to throw away a few golden wool cloths, Garen suddenly remembered that his wallet was also completely destroyed in the fight. There was sudden hesitation on his face. "The powerful Totem Master is just a radio, you don't need to take it to heart." The woman appeared to be in her 20s. She didn't seem to often interact with those in power, and her speech was a bit stiff and artificial. "What is this place?" Garen suddenly asked. "Well, this is the Blue Emerald Plain, between Absolute Shelter and the 100 Kingdoms of the South," the woman replied quickly. "What are you doing here?" "We were originally tracking a 4-eared fox on the grassland, but accidentally got lost," the woman replied with a wry smile. "So this place is close to the Absolute Asylum of Kuwaitan?" "Yes, sir." Garen nodded, and suddenly he flicked his finger, and a black air shot out, leaving a black line in the sky. Soon there was a shrill scream from far away, and after a while, a small beast like a white fox was wrapped in a ball of black energy and flew back. The little fox had golden eyes and actually had 6 legs under its body. Wrapped in the black energy, he continued to struggle and let out bursts of sharp screams. "This is your reward." Garen pointed his hand, and the black energy enveloped the little fox and flew directly downwards, landing in front of the three of them. The little fox, who was still struggling, was also pierced by the black air in mid-air, and pierced out from the other ear. His body froze and became completely motionless. "Six-legged white fox. It's actually a 6-legged white fox." The three people couldn't suppress their exclamations. Apparently the fox was quite valuable. "With this 6-legged white fox, why should we catch a 4-eared fox? Now there is hope for Dad's illness." By the time the three of them came to their senses and were ready to express their gratitude to Garen, the sky was already silent and deserted. Returning to the temporary camp, after Garen landed, he placed the radio on the ground, turned it on, and dialed the Sunnia news channel that he still remembered. Although this place is relatively close to Kuwaitan, when he left, the news channel in Kuwaitan had not yet been established, and the only one he could remember was the one from Shania. The 4 Mohuang people looked at this small white and silver box curiously, not knowing what it was used for. "Tisk Oasis, Oasis. Hurry up. Aim this way. This way. That's Enet's giant stone statue, and the giant stone statue is also out. It seems that the demonstration has reached the limit of what the government can tolerate." The sound of dense and faintly rhythmic footsteps sounded one after another, and a rapid man's voice came from the radio. There were also countless people shouting in unison. "This is the city of Enet Khazardan at 11:32 in the morning, the marchers have begun to face off against government forces. If events do not turn around, perhaps a huge bloody conflict will happen again. Garin narrowed his eyes slightly and changed the channel again, which was also Shanya's news channel. There happened to be music at intervals inside. He put down the radio and sat down to listen to the news while adjusting his breath. The gentle and clear female announcer broadcast the news that happened in recent days. Most of them are insignificant things, such as a mine collapse somewhere and how many people were killed or injured. To what extent has the new round of international census progressed, and research on domesticated mutant beasts as domestic animals has achieved a breakthrough? However, Mohuang and the others were extremely novel. While doing things, they secretly listened to the sounds on the radio. The announcement was in Shannian, which they couldn't understand at all, but that didn't stop them from being curious about this little talking box. The sky gradually became brighter, and at about 2 o'clock at noon, the evil God King still had no intention of leaving. Garin also decided to go over to test the secret weapon later today, and first have a good understanding of what happened recently. A few days ago, the Yekan Mountains held a secret conference of the Dongzhou School. Many top schools gathered in the Blackstone Ruins Cathedral to exchange experience and knowledge. A fight broke out during the exchange, resulting in dozens of serious injuries and 15 deaths. Among them are even Sisley and his wife, the leaders of the Daihua Society. The specific cause of the accident is under investigation. Garin suddenly opened his eyes, a trace of heaviness flashed across his face. Sisley Flower Club. The sound continues. The largest terrorist organization, the Black Sky Society, claimed responsibility for the incident. His Majesty Pharaohs issued a statement that all provocations to peace are provocations to Sunia, and the heaviest blow and revenge must be given to the rampant activities organized by the Black Sky Society. The news continued, but Garin had no intention of listening anymore. He turned off the radio, and although his heart was a little heavy, it was more of a sense of expectation. It's exciting to think about how powerful Gaiman, a man who has transcended the world's limits, is. We must speed up the progress. Garin stood up, his body slowly melted, turning into a ball of black smoke and shooting rapidly into the distance. A distance of tens of kilometers can be covered in a few breaths. On the grass below, the evil God King in red robes opened his eyes instantly. A red lightning spear condensed in his hand, and he threw it hard towards the side. Click. There was lightning and thunder, red lightning and black clouds and meteors crashing together. With a bang, a vibrating transparent ripple spread across the grassland into the distance along the ground. Like sea water, the grass spreads out a clear ripple line like a carpet. The dense white clouds in the sky were directly dispersed into a hole, and golden sunlight was projected from the hole, forming a striking golden light pillar. Among the black clouds and red lightning, 2 figures, one black and one red, shot out suddenly, entangled and collided with each other again. Then it turned into a black and red meteor and fell hard to the ground. Bang! A giant crater that was hundreds of meters wide and more than 10 meters deep suddenly appeared on the ground. Garin's expression remained unchanged as he thrust out his arms toward both sides, fiercely penetrating the 2 red beams of light that came from the combined attack. Until now, he no longer has any specific moves. All kinds of fighting skills are gradually integrated, eliminating the redundant parts, becoming more and more refined and powerful. Some of the moves I created piecemeal when I came to this world are gradually being integrated. After blasting away the 2 beams of light, Garin turned sideways and whipped out his right leg like a whip. The black light on his toes was clearly visible. In the huge pit, there was a soft hiss, and a black moon arc suddenly lit up, crossing the evil God King's chest, and then quickly dissipated. The evil God King stared at Garin as if he had seen a ghost, his eyes filled with disbelief and astonishment. The black moon leg knife did not touch him, but traces of black electric arcs wrapped around his chest strangely. He was not generally familiar with this electric arc fluctuation. It is actually very similar to his Sun Seal magic will magic skill. Although it did not cause any harm to him, this impact made the evil God King feel a chill in his heart that could not be concealed. Looking at the man in front of him, he almost reflexively thought of the tyrannical man on the ancestral god tree. The two were so similar that the familiar trembling feeling in the evil God King's heart faintly resurfaced. Light of all Dharma, the evil God King roared angrily. Finally used the most powerful ability to press the bottom of the box so far. In the sky, the golden sun turned faintly red for an instant, and a red light point suddenly fell from the center of the sun, and then became faster and bigger. From the size of a sesame dot at the beginning, it became the size of a fingernail, and soon became a huge red light pillar that almost covered the sky. No sound, no vibration. A huge beam of light that was hundreds of meters thick suddenly fell, and the evil God King, wrapped around Garen, was submerged in the violent and terrifying high-temperature light beam. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 503. The red light beam reaches the sky and the earth, like a huge ruby pillar standing on the grassland. Straight through the clouds in the sky, the sunlight cast from the hollows in the clouds falls on the light beams, faintly flowing at a high speed like water and air flow. The light beam lasted for several minutes before slowly becoming thinner, lighter, and finally dissipated completely. Under the light beam, a dark hole appeared on the ground, which was dark and bottomless. Only traces of white smoke and black gas floated faintly from inside. Snapped. One hand stretched out and grabbed the soil at the edge of the hollow. He bent his knuckles and dug his 5 fingers into the soil like sharp knives and claws. 2 dark figures were hanging on the edge of the hole. One was inserted into the soil with one hand, and the other was hanging on his right leg. The 2 were hanging on the cave wall, shaking from time to time, like pendants hanging on the wall. Blown tottering by the wind. Garen grabbed the evil God King's right leg tightly. His left arm was gone, and his legs were blown up. He almost turned into a human stick, but at this time he was grinning, revealing his white, jagged face. Sharp teeth. Woo! There was a desolate horn sound in the distance, distant and dull. In the white sky, small dark red dots flew towards here from a distance. It was a 2-headed lizard dragon covered in dark red. They have lizard-like bodies, except for a pair of fleshy wings on their backs and an extra head in the middle of their chests. Standing on the backs of these 2-headed lizard dragons were strong horned warriors. Some of them were wielding heavy iron chain stone balls, some were holding black combination bows, and some had balls of dark red flames condensed in their hands. The sky was slowly occupied by red dots, and dark red 2-headed lizard dragons were flying around the cloud holes like flying insects. The golden sunlight was projected down, forming a dazzling light pillar. Around the golden light pillar, more and more 2-headed lizard dragons gathered, circling around the golden light pillar and roaring. Woo! The horn sounded again. Lizard dragons all over the sky were flying above the 2 people below, surrounding them. You're dead, the evil God King glared at Garen below, but saw that the other person was just smiling at the corner of his mouth, showing no signs of panic. You don't have much of your origin anymore, right? Garen chuckled twice and asked casually. I won't die before you, the evil God King sneered. But there was a real chill in my heart. His evil god's origin has indeed been consumed a lot. After taking the shining water and consuming the evil god's origin, he finally recovered the wounds on his soul. There is really not much left. There are only 3 chances for resurrection. If he dies here, once, next time I face Philos, the outcome will be unpredictable. This is one of the reasons why he has never taken the initiative to commit suicide and return to his headquarters. Is your recovery ability almost there? The evil God King did not reveal the change in his heart at all, but asked with a sneer. Who knows? Garen chuckled and stopped talking. Faintly, he grasped the leg of the evil God King with his right hand. At the point of contact between the two, the black viscous liquid and the red jade hard shell were fighting and corroding each other. Black light and red light slowly bloomed between the two. It is extremely conspicuous at the edge of the dark void. In fact, both of them had little energy at this time, and no one wanted to be the first to admit defeat. At this point, regardless of whether the evil God King wanted it or not, he had actually subconsciously regarded Garen as his first opponent besides Pharaoh's. Screams, the sound of horse hooves, the roar of the two-headed flying dragon. The grassland was in chaos. A large group of flying dragons and black cavalry rushed into the white circular tribe, like a black torrent, without any obstruction. The scimitars swept downwards, picking up heads one after another with a hiss, and blood spurted onto the ground, staining the vast grassland red. In front of the white tribal gate, two men in black suits stood quietly, watching their men wantonly massacre all life in the tribe. This is the 13th tribe. On the prairie, except for Ramsto, all the others are prey under the eagle's claws. One of the men had sharp eyes and a long white beard on his chin. He followed the wind. Drift left. This is the consequence of not obeying my Black Wolf clan. The other person's voice was cold and without any warmth. Everything on the grassland can only belong to the Azer Alliance. Before he finished speaking, there was a crisp sound, and a white boomerang spun at high speed and flew towards his head. The boomerang's blade was extremely sharp, with faint traces of blood remaining. There was also a violent whistling sound during the rotation. The dart blade grazed the neck of a black cavalryman in the middle, and a puff of blood mist was brought up, and the head of a man who was still laughing flew up. The boomerang flew toward the man in black with a cold voice, carrying a murderous power. Clang! The man in black suddenly raised his hand to block the dart, and golden sparks flew between the dart blades of his arm. The flesh and blood body collided with the metal dart, making a sound of gold and iron. Looking towards the direction where the darts came from, a group of white cavalry was protecting two half-grown teenagers and retreating into the distance. The surrounding black cavalry and flying dragons rushed towards them, but they were all killed or knocked away by the boomerangs. A knight in white armor was clad all over his body, wearing a silver helmet with only his eyes exposed. He held a huge sword filled with white electric current in his hand. With every slash, a black knight was cut off his horse, and the two-headed flying dragon did not dare to approach. The white current only touched them a little bit, and they were paralyzed and fell to the ground. Then black smoke quickly rose up and turned into pools of charred black fly ash. The white-bearded leader in black looked at the group of white knights who were gradually moving away, with a smile slowly appearing on his face. "Gulaman. I'll kill them," a cold voice begged from the side. "No hurry." Whitebeard looked through the gap of the white knight and saw the two people being protected inside. They were two boys and girls no more than 13 or 14 years old. They were dressed luxuriously and exquisitely, wearing white headscarves with emeralds inlaid on them. Both children have fair skin and handsome faces. The boy is like the most exquisite porcelain doll, and the girl has long hair shawl. Her small waist is perfectly highlighted by tight clothes, her lips are red and her teeth are white, and her watery almond-shaped eyes are slightly red and swollen. "It seems that we have some good stuff tonight." The old man with a white beard stroked his beard with a trace of satisfaction on his face. "Gulaman, I'll catch it for you. I want that little boy. I haven't seen one so tender for a long time." Whitebeard nodded. The other person was a little stunned. He originally thought that Gulaman's hobby was to catch the little girl, but he didn't expect that. He glanced at the calm Whitebeard again, and couldn't help feeling a little chilly in his heart. "Sister! Leave me alone. Let's go," the little boy Raj shouted loudly, struggling constantly, but was still firmly held under his arm by a black cavalry leader and led back towards the two black leaders in the distance. "It's your good fortune to be favored by Master Gulaman. Serve him well, and maybe you won't die." The leader of the black cavalry chuckled. Leo was hugged by the white-armored knight with one hand. With tears on his face, he stretched out his hand in the direction of his brother and cried. The surrounding white cavalry protected them and retreated into the distance, but the tide of black cavalry was still behind them like a pack of wolves eyeing meat, refusing to let go. From the gap between the white armored knight's helmet and his neck, red blood was slowly flowing down, dyeing the knight's armor on his chest red. But his figure remained unwavering. "Princess Rain, don't let His Highness G's sacrifice be in vain," his firm and sonorous voice came from under the helmet. "Let me go, let me go. I'm going to save my brother. Let go. Let me go." Leo hammered the white knight's breastplate. His little hand was cut and bleeding from the sharp point of the armor, but he didn't notice it at all. "Woo, let go!" Liu cried so hard that the white knight remained unwavering. "The White Wind tribe is finished. The Wolf-Eagle-Azure alliance is too powerful. Their totems are overwhelming, more numerous than the raindrops in the sky. They are invincible across the entire grassland. After the demise of the second largest White Wind tribe, no one will be able to stop them." "Well." A white cavalryman next to him was struck by an arrow and the totem light was broken. He fell over and was quickly replaced by another cavalryman without any panic. They are the most elite White Wind Knights. Each of them is an elite totem master who has been trained since childhood and is an elite selected from countless branches. The hundreds of white cavalrymen are like precision instruments. Every time a man falls, a new cavalryman will immediately fill the gap. No fear, no timidity, just peace. After this battle, thousands of elite totem masters surrounded and suppressed the king of the White Wind tribe. The king of White Wind died in the battle. This battle will shock all tribes in the entire prairie. Buzz. Suddenly, my eyes turned red, and the endless red light instantly flooded the entire field of vision. The white knight quickly grabbed the reins of his horse. The horses neighed in panic, and the two-headed flying dragon in the sky fell to the ground like a dumpling. Bang! A flying dragon suddenly flew down to the ground behind their team. It was hit by a raised stone and howled. It struggled to get up with four eyes, but it had no effect at all. The white knight's vision recovered very quickly. He glanced at the flying dragon, raised his hand, and a white light shot out, accurately piercing the flying dragon's head, and the flying dragon immediately stopped moving. He withdrew the white light, and the team still sprinted towards the distance with inertia. "What? Damn my eyes! It's Baifeng's secret weapon. Stop yelling! Stay where you are! Stay where you are!" The roars of the black cavalry leaders could be heard in the distance. Only then did the white knight see clearly what was going on. On the grassland in the distance, a red beam of light penetrated the clouds. The red light was like running water, swirling upwards. The entire beam of light was like ruby, emitting a dazzling red light, crystal clear and dazzling. At this moment, large groups of black cavalry also appeared in front of the white cavalry. The leader was a black knight in an eagle-winged helmet. He was riding a black horse and looked sideways, but he was obviously also affected by the red cavalry. Affected by the light, the horses were still frightened for a while, pacing back and forth and neighing. "Run that way!" The white knight turned around decisively and ran towards the red light beam. Their horses were also affected to a certain extent, but luckily, their sight direction was facing away from the light beam, avoiding most of the stimulating light, and they recovered much faster than the black cavalry. Gulamanus. The red light falling from the sky must be the birth of the secret treasure. Gulaman stroked his white beard, his eyes darkening. The scouts over there reported that two strong men were found fighting to the death near the red light. Both sides were seriously injured. They are dressed as people from the central region. A black armored knight beside him whispered. "Boss, what should we do now?" "Go and have a look. According to the old rules, let them kneel down and join my alliance tribe. If they don't want to, the men will be killed, and the women will be destroyed and sent to the army," Gulaman said lightly. "Yes." The arms crossed fiercely. Bang! Black light and red light exploded. Garen and the evil god king stumbled back a few steps. One of them leaned on a huge black stone pillar, and the other suddenly sat down on the ground, breathing heavily. Both sides have reached the point of exhaustion of physical strength, and no one can do anything to the other. "You can't kill me," the evil God King gasped and said harshly. He tried hard to lean against the stone pillar, trying to maintain his original image of the God King, but the fatigue in his body was like a wave, hitting his nerves one after another. This is mental fatigue and has nothing to do with the physical body. The two fought to the death for more than 2 months. Every day was a high-intensity battle without any slack. By now, no matter who it is, they have reached the point of mental exhaustion. The evil God King couldn't even kill Garen with his most powerful move, so he knew he could only rely on a protracted fight, and then after a fierce battle, he became like this. "What does that matter?" Garen grinned. He sat on the ground without caring about his image. He was obviously much more comfortable than the evil God King. "I can't kill you either." The evil God King regained his composure a little. But he still didn't move. He didn't have enough strength to gather, and he couldn't even break the skin of the peak type 5. "How about we make a truce?" "Truce?" Garen's expression was strange. "Woo!" The deafening sound of trumpets sounded from the sky again. The red dot flying dragons in the sky were circling above their heads one by one. The horned helmeted warriors blew dull horn sounds one after another. "You know what I want, do you think we can have a truce now?" Garen stared straight at the evil God King and laughed a little. "Everything in the world has conditions. Tell me your conditions." The evil God King really didn't want to die and go back.